This week on The Loud Quiet, do we still fourth on the 4th?
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Loud Quiet. Today we thought we'd talk about the 4th of July, since this episode will be coming out the day before the 4th of July, which for some people is a holiday, some people not.
Oh, it's a federal holiday, so if you
Well,
are federal,
right.
it's off. I know this when I worked retail, when I was doing a summer job. Guess what was not a holiday?
Oh,
4th
sure.
of July.
Well, yeah, Tegan's working on 4th of
Yeah.
July. Tanner has it off. But I remember you wanted it to be on this day because then sometimes you got the next day
Yeah.
off as well. But
That'd be up to you'd always want it like on a Thursday.
yeah,
or something
this year
like
it's
that.
on a Friday, so I don't think anybody's getting
They're
any
gonna love it
extra.
though, and I would love it too. In that, at least you've got a day off after the 4th.
Yes. It's not
such
on
a beating on a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
or when it's on a Saturday or a Sunday, so it doesn't benefit anything. But
You always get the
sometime-
little bonus
yeah.
day. There's always going to be a holiday.
Yeah.
It's just the day after
Yes.
is nice to have off.
As I was walking around our neighborhood and the signs were up for the 4th of July kids parade, and they were also doing a kid vendor fair this year. Well, it was on the 28th, and I was like, huh. And I put that question out there last week if you're on either one of our page or on the group. And shout out to Sarah. She responded and said the 4th should be on the 4th. And when we were growing up, that's how it was.
Yeah.
So it just got me to thinking, it just seems like it's creeping back further and further every year.
I think this one felt even more so. And to be clear, anyone listening from our neighborhood, no complaints.
No.
The people that are putting that together,
Yeah.
thank God they're doing that to get the community vibrant and all of that. I think it also triggered it a little bit because it was a June date. It just looked weird to see 4th of July celebrated in June, even though it's just a week ahead.
Right. I guess because the 4th falls on a Friday this year, that yes, most cities did their celebrations the weekend.
Yeah, the weekend before is going to be June. Yeah.
Yes. When we were growing up, first of all, you didn't have these huge citywide events. I don't remember that.
We did in Austin.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I
But
don't
I mean,
rem-
that's Austin, right? You know, compare that to Dallas. I have no idea what Round Rock or Cedar Park or those sort of places did, but Austin did have a big thing down at Auditorium Shores.
I guess we were always usually in Arkansas on the 4th. That's what I remember growing up. We would go there. We'd shoot fireworks with our cousins. There wasn't a big display anywhere that I remember going to, but we were at the lake. I remember having like bottle rocket wars where you shot bottle rockets at each other. So, real safety conscious back then.
I remember.
But it was fun.
I remember I had friends that would do that, and I remember thinking, well, actually, this is going to paint me as such a dork kid, but I remember thinking, gosh, that doesn't sound safe, right?
Yes, that does paint you as a dork kid.
I know, and I wasn't really that way. It's probably the Boy Scout in me, right? We never did that. I knew friends that did that, and then there was, of course, a little part like, oh, that sounds fun. But I didn't want that fireball coming at me.
I loved going to the fireworks stand. I mean, and you'd pick out all the stuff, and did you ever do the snakes?
I knew of the snakes.
Yeah.
Talking about my experience growing up, we didn't go to fireworks stands. Those were those things that I saw on I-35 that were closed all year round, except for the 2 times that they were allowed to open. The first time I bought fireworks, it may have been an Arkansas trip with you or something like that. I was so lost. I didn't know what any of that stuff was. So I know the snake.
Yeah,
I never bought
those
it.
are the little things that you'd light, and then they would just grow. I mean, it wasn't anything, but it was just fascinating.
The closest we got were whippersnappers. The little,
the little white
tiny
that you would
little
throw down.
thing of gunpowder that you throw in the ground and pow.
Yeah, that was just fun, and I remember getting the big packages of the firework bundle and everything, and then you.
So where did y'all buy them? Was it always out in Arkansas, or did y'all do this here?
I don't. Not in Dallas. I wasn't here. I was older.
Well, I meant
in San Antonio,
Lubbock or San Antonio.
Yeah, we did them in San Antonio too. I remember getting some and doing some outside. I have that memory in my head, so we must have bought some there as well. But what's interesting is there's so many burn bans now, you can't really do them. But the fireworks stand popped up on our corner And I'm fascinated.
I'm
This is the
confused by
first
this.
time we've lived here for 18 years. There's never been any fireworks stands anywhere near. And one is now literally less than a mile from our house. And so I'm so interested to find out how they were able to do that.
I'm sitting here assuming that it's some sort of weird pocket that they found these 10 square feet that the cities didn't incorporate in some obscure book, or they just set up a stand and hope they didn't get shut down.
Right.
It could be that.
I mean, I thought in all of our areas you can't have them.
Oh, this is one of those things that to me is so comical. You're never allowed to shoot fireworks except in unincorporated areas. Even you growing up, me growing up, you could not do that in cities. Cities had it prohibited. Frisco's had it prohibited since probably the city charter was founded. No one cares. They still do it. I guarantee we will hear fireworks well into the night. Those one or two pops that go off that somebody had something fun that they're shooting in their backyard or in their street.
Yeah. I don't remember all of the care given about having pets during the fireworks and all of the outrage of people with pets. And I get it. Our cat doesn't love them either. But just the amount of posts about, my dog hates this. Please don't do fireworks. My dog hates it. I just don't remember
that's going to work.
I just don't remember even thinking about, we had dogs. I don't even remember thinking about that.
You're scared. You run out of you freak out. You do your thing. Yeah. And no, we are not pet haters or anything like that. We love dogs. We love cats. But,
I'm just saying that's
put your dog muffs on.
That's just another thing that's just different. Yeah. I remember having the huge slices of watermelons when you still had watermelons that had seeds in them.
Yeah.
And
well, the thing that I'm blurring some of my memories. I know that I have some very distinct 4th of July memories. What I don't know is what I'm about to say is if it's a 4th of July memory or just generic summer memory. And this is elementary school age. We would actually spend all evening outside, family would come over, friends would come over, and I remember the hand-cranked ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about hit a button and it cranks it. Like people taking turn on cranking the ice cream. Mm-hmm. To which I always thought, y'all know there's Bluebell, right? And it's better. I was never a homemade ice cream guy.
Yeah, it never came out.
No.
It was always exciting, but it never came out. No. It was gritty. It always had that little grit.
Go get me a tub of Bluebell and we'll be all right. So, yeah, you talked about the parade here, and that was such a big deal. Mm-hmm. Anybody who listens that is from Austin, specifically Northwest Hills, you'll know the 4th of July neighborhood parade. And my understanding is it's still going on and going strong. I did it as a kid. You decorate your bike with the little streamers and attach fans and pinwheels and stuff to it, and you'd ride down a certain section of the neighborhood. When you and I were dating, we actually...
I was in it.
You were in the parade. We got in, and maybe we'll throw some pictures either on the video or certainly on the Facebook page. We have a picture that I love of you and me and my dad's 72 convertible red MGB. I remember distinctly worrying about the car's viability and were we going to be able to successfully drive it all the way or were we going to have to push it? Thankfully, the MG survived the whole trip, but I was very worried on that parade if we were going to have to push our parade float, for lack of a better term.
And I love that. And I love that, our neighborhood did that, like I said yesterday, and the fire engine came, and it made me a little sad that there was not a big of a group as I expected, but it also shows our neighborhood, the kids are getting old now. We don't have a lot of young kids that would want to do that. But there were some really unique decorated little cars that they drive, and I saw some bikes and kids pulling wagons behind their bikes, and so I was glad to see it. I hope it will gain momentum.
Well, just like anything, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so it may be the beginnings that someday 40 years from now, somebody's going to be talking on their version of a podcast about, hey, do you remember the 4th of July parade?
Maybe I'll put together a collage of our 4th of July memories
Ooh, okay.
over, because I can see one in my head of Tegan. I love that picture. She's out by the pool and she has a sparkler. Like that's what we would do. Remember, we would light them over the pool so that it was still safe if anyone needed to jump in the pool.
I guess I am such a dorky Eagle Scout. It's probably my fault. And we've got that picture of Tanner. Oh, well, we weren't safe in Arkansas. We've got the picture of Tanner with the sparkler, and I think that my hand is handing it to him. But if you look in the background, there's a Busch Light can sitting on the bumper of a pickup. So, so we went full throttle Arkansas on that one.
That was Tegan's 3 months, and she's in we put her in that float. And we put her like up on there was a little island that you would go to, and we'd put her up on the island, and she just slept in that float while.
That was a fun trip.
That was a fun trip.
That was a lot of fun. Growing up in Austin, we did have a big fireworks event, and it was always down at Auditorium Shores, Town Lake area, and you'd spread your blankets out and all that. And as a kid, I have kind of these rose-colored memories. I bet you I also probably hated the heat, didn't like, all that sort of stuff. But then once the fireworks finally came out, man, I love fireworks. And that's what we did as a family a lot in the evenings. It was going down there for a while, and then I'm sure my parents just got sick of the traffic, the crowds, and having to just sit in a blanket and wait for hours, because if you didn't get there early, you don't get a space, yada, yada. And then we started going out on our boat on Lake Travis, and one of the marinas there would do fireworks. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, there's something really neat about being on the water when fireworks are going on, because not only just is it peaceful, the water's rocking you, it's kind of nice, there's a breeze usually in summer. You also get the reflection of the firework on the water. You're in sort of that ideal, and I think that's where, if I were to ever sort of design my ideal firework experience, it would be on the water.
So that's, kind of our childhood memories. When we started dating, we still did, 4th of July. If you're in the Dallas area, Kaboom Town in Addison. That one to me has been the one that's been around forever.
I think it was bigger in my mind than, say, a Dallas one or a Fort Worth one. That could be a false memory. I thought of Kaboom Town was the signature DFW firework event.
And it is still going, and it is always on July 3rd. It's always been the day before the 4th of July. And we were lucky enough that we could see it from your apartment, not having to mess with the crowds, because it's insane.
It's already in an urbanized area, as many fireworks are, and there's not a ton of parking. It's not like you're going out to some big stadium or anything like that. It's crazy getting in and out of there. And yes, it was nice to just step outside, and a lot of times we wouldn't necessarily kind of plan ahead of time. You'd hear just the first boom. You're like, all right, let's go outside. And that was awesome.
There was a park, too, that we used to walk to. And so sometimes we'd go over there and sit at that park, and you could see them. I don't know how much you can see now with the trees and everything that have probably grown in. It'd be interesting to see. But one year when the kids were younger, we did go back with another couple. And I mean, we went and ate at a restaurant and left our cars there and walked. Because, again, the tollway will be backed up for miles getting in and out of this event.
This is such a dad thing. We had purposely picked that restaurant that it was walkable to where we could watch the fireworks. They would let us park there during the fireworks, but you couldn't unless you ate at the restaurant. And we liked the restaurant. And there was easy access to an on-ramp on the tollway right there so that you could skip the front road. So it's such a dad thing that we chose where to eat based off of an on-ramp. If you're familiar with the original Vacation, it's the equivalent of parking at the back of the parking lot to be able to get out first.
And that we did once and did not do again. But that's also when our area started doing fireworks. When FC Dallas came, they had a huge fireworks show. So this was when the kids were younger. We used to always get together. The neighbors would come over. I just remember hanging out in the pool, and then everybody would be like, all right, let's all get in the trucks and let's head to somewhere that we can watch the fireworks. You used to be able to do that in Frisco.
Well, and we'd have the pickup and lay out the blankets and the chairs in the pickup. It was great to just sit out there and
There
do
were
that.
so many access points to be able to see it. Now,
I remember being disappointed one year. We're like, okay, we'll do that one that's behind the new shops or whatever. Nobody probably knows about that yet. Everybody knows about that yet.
Yes, it was crowded. And I feel like some places started putting up signs that you couldn't park for the fireworks. So we did that for several years when the kids were younger, and it was fun. And then when Tanner started playing competitive soccer, it seemed like we had a soccer tournament every 4th of July.
And
those tournaments were hot.
And the last thing you ever wanted to do at the end of a soccer tournament day was to go wait and see fireworks.
Yes.
Didn't happen. You might, in fact, see them as you were driving home, the different communities while you're on the highway driving home. That was the closest we did to a show.
And usually he probably had a game the next day, too. So you just really couldn't. So that kind of started the path of our death to our celebration of the 4th of July, along with Tegan. Once she got into competitive cheer, that was the 1 week of the year or the summer, that they were guaranteed that the gym would be closed. So she and her friend from the gym would go to Pine Cove that week because they knew they weren't going to miss any days of practice, and that would not take up their vacation days that they were allotted, which, as that comes out of my mouth, that just sounds horrible.
Oh, there's a whole, as
I know,
parents,
we're not going down that.
we have a whole mea culpa around things that we know about competitive sports that younger parents, you should know.
We still enjoyed fireworks, but when you don't have your kids around, or there's some event that is kid focused that takes away from the fireworks.
It's because we're older and we value comfort. And you know what is not comfortable? Going somewhere in Texas in July at 5 p.m. so that you can hopefully be able to see something at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So if it's not
true.
viewable from my backyard or reasonable walking distance, I find myself less interested.
Yeah. And we did last year because the PGA has started their fireworks. And I just remember I was sick. I was not feeling well. Tanner was in Arizona. Tegan was working. So we got in the car and we just drove up to this one street that you could still park on and get out on the bridge and watch. And so, yes, that was good. I do remember Tegan, bless her heart, because her theater that she works at is right by the FC Dallas Stadium. So she got caught up in all of that mess trying to leave work. She said this year, she knows she'll probably be working again. She said this year, I'm just staying. I don't care if my shift is done. I'm just staying. She said people were driving on sidewalks. She said it was crazy.
She's there in her car in her little Cinemark uniform, just saying, I just want to go home. Y'all had all the fun. Can you let the workers out?
Because that one, FC Dallas still does theirs on the 4th of July. They have a game. They have a big thing beforehand.
You said the sentence, FC Dallas still does it on the 4th. And we were starting to dance around that a little bit. Caboomtown's always been the 3rd, so that's just sort of been the tradition. You and I growing up, our memories are everything was on the 4th. And we talked about the parade being the week before. It feels like the idea of doing things on the 4th is no longer the requirement.
I know. And that
feels weird.
Yeah. And that's why I put that question out last week, because I think what you said is right, is that we're still in June, which I know we're at the end of June, but it does still feel weird to be doing something 4th of July related, because Tegan did last night. She went out to her friend who lives in Salina, and Salina had their big fireworks yesterday. It is interesting that the cities are putting on their big celebrations before the 4th, usually the weekend before, or sometimes, I guess, I remember one year Allen did theirs so early, and I was just like, why is it so early? I guess if the 4th falls on a Monday, they're probably backing it up 2 weekends before. The other thing is, what I don't remember, because, well, like I said, I don't remember the city fireworks things when I was younger, but Do you recall if it was just fireworks? Because now it's food trucks. We're selling beer. We've got
Well,
bounce houses. It's,
so keep in mind, my era that I'm describing is late 70s, early 80s. So a food truck back then was
yes.
something that you didn't go to.
But
So
I mean, food stands.
yeah, no, I know. I do not remember that. What I do remember is it was more picnicky, that people brought their stuff out
Right.
there. The city may have set up restrooms and that kind of stuff, but I don't think so. This feels more like kind of the old, look, you're on your own.
Well, and now I know because Tegan and I were looking up what she was going to yesterday, and there was no outside food, no outside drinks. You couldn't bring anything in. So if you were going to
That's so
the
sad.
event, you have to buy stuff when you get there.
And I understand it. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I know this is a bit of get off my lawn kind of thing. Of all the holidays, the 4th feels like it should be that sort of bandstand at the gazebo in the middle of the town square, New England kind of style, that people are just gathering rather than some sort of commercial event that would prohibit the bringing in of outside food and beverages. Having available is one thing, but prohibiting feels like we really have we've lost our way. Or another way to look at it is there is nothing more American than capitalism. So my gosh, we are celebrating the 4th full gusto on that one. Two perspectives.
So yes, it is just an interesting thought that I had this week of just, do people still celebrate on the 4th? Or, we got to where we actually enjoyed celebrating on the 3rd, because then you could use the 4th just to kind of relax and regroup.
Especially if you're out late, right? And I'm not even talking about the hey, let's party kind of thing. I just mean if you're coming home at 11:30 because the traffic was so bad, it's not fun to get up for work the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how, when our kids get into their marriages and that type of thing, will we regroup and do back again a big family thing?
What
or
would that look like?
how it will
Yeah.
be in the future?
Hey, I would like to see y'all's 4th of July pictures. Either ones from the past like that, from when you were dating or when you were a kid, or now or your kids. It'd be fun to start seeing some of those pictures. So go out there, share your pictures on the Loud, Quiet, Empty Nest Living.
We hope y'all enjoyed our little walk back through some of our 4th of Julys. And again, like Rick said, share your pictures, or we'd love to hear what your plans are for this 4th of July. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of The Loud, Quiet.